Today I have a step-by-step color correction for you. This is my friend Aisha, and she was just ready to be done with purple and go back to something more natural. So she let me pretty much do whatever I wanted. So I decided to remove her purple without any lightener and work with the remaining tones to create a warm chocolate dimensional color. By the way, my name is Lauren. Thank you so much for watching, and let's get started. The first thing I had her do was actually intensely fade this color at home by using Head & Shoulders dandruff shampoo, and I had her do that for multiple weeks. That gave me the starting point that you see here. Second step was to just cut out the bulk because there's no sense in treating and coloring hair that's just going to be cut off anyway. And once I remove some of this color, then I'm going to go in and refine the haircut later. Next, I'm going to prep the hair with the K18 Peptide Prep Detox shampoo to remove any buildup because I'm going to be doing a non-bleach color remover, and I want to make sure that there's absolutely no buildup to give it the best chance of lifting as much as possible without any lightener. Next, I'm going to do the Malibu Color Disruptor, and I believe this stays on from about 30 to 40 minutes. And I process it in a cap, but what this does is it kind of loosens up the color molecules and gets them starting to move so that when you do all of your other processes later, it just goes a little bit easier. I can't stress enough how important it is to prep the hair to make everything that you do to the hair just go a lot smoother. And we processed this for about 45 minutes, and it did end up slightly lightening that color up a little bit, so it was really helpful. Gave us a nice starting point. So now I'm using the Malibu CPR, and this is the main thing that I'm using to try to extract as much of that purple out as possible. I love this color remover because other color removers that I've used in the past, once you wash out the color remover or try to do another color process after you are so excited to start seeing it lift out, the color can come right back. So I felt like a lot of color removers were just a waste of time until I found this one, and I really love it. It does not affect the natural, so it's not going to lift and make any of her natural hair warm. It's only going to extract the color that's there. So as you can see, I'm just kind of playing around with it as it's processing, and the purple is definitely starting to come out because you could see the little bubbles in the cap are starting to turn purple, so I know it's working. And I ended up doing the Malibu CPR treatment 3 different times, each processing for 30 minutes. And this is how much purple we were able to get out of the hair. Each one lifted it out a little bit more, and I was really happy with the results, especially for not ever using lightener yet. And step 6 was I just went ahead and used this time to refine the cut. So keeping my end goal in mind, I want the end result to be mostly her natural color with some highlights kind of peppered throughout. Just very natural, but mostly everything's similar to her natural color. She's just more dimensional. That's my end goal. So the first thing I did was fill the hair, and my first formula was 6WG and 6NW, and that is what I placed on the purple areas. And that was just so that I could try to refine the purple out as much as possible and just kind of leave the red in there a little bit and make it a little bit more brown rather than purple. And the second formula was 6NB, 6RB, and 6WG. These are some reds and yellows to try to warm up those ashy areas to make them a little bit more similar to the mahogany ends. So as you can see, it just kind of evened out the canvas a little bit so that it wasn't so purple and the ashy areas weren't so ashy. That way when I take it darker, it will just look a little bit more even in appearance, and also it will last longer because when you are coloring over previously lightened hair, it tends not to last that long. So if you are doing it in stages and layers, it helps with that. So the next thing that I'm going to do is highlight her hair, and then I'm going to go in between the highlights and darken everything down close to her natural color. So I'm going to be doing a big chunky weave and backcombing all of my sections. The big chunky weave is going to help with coverage. So if there is purple in the hair, a lot of it is going to be lifted out in this process. Not all of it, but enough. I didn't really want to do an entire bleach out to get all of the purple out. because it would just be so damaging, and I felt like I could get a really nice natural chocolatey look without having to do that. So this highlighting step is what I utilize to try to get a lot more of that purple out. So my placement was based on, okay, where's the purple? Where do I want to see a lot of that purple lifted out? So what I did was just a big chunky weave, and I back combed everything, just made it very, very simple and quick. And I wanted to do a highlight with a lot of coverage, because again, what that would allow me to do is eliminate a lot of the purple that's left and also just give her some nice natural highlights. So I'm starting in the back, and I just took a parting right down the middle of her hair. So right in like the middle of her ear, everything behind that I'm counting as my back section, and I'm just taking large partings all the way from ear to ear in a slight curve just to follow the curve of the head. And then what I'm doing is skimming off the top in a section that is about the width that I could comfortably fit in a foil, just to make things easy. So instead of parting two sections in the back, I just leave it all as one big back section to save time. And whenever I'm picking up a section, I'm making sure to note how much lightener is already in the hair, where the purple is darker, where there's darker pigment, where there's lighter pigment. And I want to make sure to take out anything that is extremely light, because I don't want to over process that. Also, I'm using a really large foil, and I just get these foils from Costco, but instead of taking the time to break them all up, I'm just using it in one big foil, just pushing the hair off to one side of the foil, and then I'm just folding the other side over, and that saves me a lot of time because I don't have to keep reaching for foils every single time I need them, especially when working with long hair. You tend to have to reach for foils even more. So this eliminates the time that it takes to actually cut the foils in half. That saves me a lot of time there, and then it also saves the time of me reaching for foils. And we just continued in this same fashion all the way up to the crown, just dropping curved sections about an inch apart and creating those foil width sections, skimming the top, and just going around the head. And we just continued in that same fashion until we got to the front. So once I got to the front, if you've seen any of my other tutorials, you know this is my favorite thing to do, but I just follow the shape of the hairline. I don't do anything complicated or tricky. I just follow the shape that the hairline gives me. And I wanted this face frame to be very subtle and to be a nice smooth transition into the root, because I just don't like to see face frame where it's just a really obvious chunk coming right at the root. So what I do is I create a small tease, and then I also create a balayage V on those sections right around the face to do that. And I believe I did those first two sections back to back, and then left a little bit of hair in between once I did the third section on the face frame. And I did that same thing on both sides. This way I could have a lot of coverage and get rid of a lot of old color, and then also keep some dimension at the root there, so that, you know, my favorite face frame that I like to see is like thin at the root, and it gets like bolder and it more expanded through the mid shaft and ends. Here's a great example right here of how crazy diverse each section could be when you're doing color correction. As you can see, it's super light blonde on the right, and then we've got mahogany browns on the left. So I am making sure to saturate really, really well on the left, and then I'm just kind of dusting the right and pulling out the very ends just to prevent it from over processing. Once I'm finished applying all the highlights, the next part is so easy. All I'm doing is applying my Lowlight formula, and I'm applying this to every single thing that's left out. So everything in between those highlights is going to be dark. And the formula I'm using is 3N and 4NW. When it's time to pull foils, what I'm doing is removing all the pre-lightened hair and moving it off to one side so that I could kind of isolate all of the really, really darker pieces that I did with the 3 and 4NW. So I could isolate all those darker pieces and wash them out first. That way I'm not getting so much color running over those lighter pieces that I just created. And this is what it looks like after we rinse everything out just raw, and now we're going to go in and do some color melting. So my first formula is 4NW, and that is what I'm just using to tap the root. And I'm just going through the hair and tapping right where the highlights meet the natural hair to create a little bit of a transition in between. Then I'll do a little bit of a comb through just to drag it down slightly and blend it. And then my next formula is going to go through her mid shafts and ends, and that is going to be 6NCH and 6N equal parts. And 6NCH is Redken Shades EQ chocolate hue, so I'm going to use that because I think it will marry really well with the warmer chocolatey tones that we have in the rest of her hair, because we have some leftover from that previous purple that was there because we didn't completely bleach everything out. So I just figured that would marry well with what was already in her hair. And again, the goal is not to give her really distinct highlights, it's just to give her slight dimension off of her natural. So that's why I'm using a level 4 on the root and then level 6 through the ends, just to give her natural a little bit of dimension. And she was totally happy with just going all the way back to her natural, but she gave me some free license to be creative, so I thought it would be fun to just kind of work with the warm tones that were inevitably going to be left just by doing this color correction process. Just giving her basically her natural, but just with more dimension and warmth, because it was there anyway, so I just thought, why not? And from there, she can do anything she wants. She could go lighter, she could put more low lights in, she could take it darker. It's a level 6, so it's not going to be too difficult to make any changes. So this is what we have as our final end result, and just a reminder of what it looked like before. I was just so impressed with how much purple we were able to get out with the Malibu CPR. It really helped me keep her hair really shiny and healthy, and the chocolate tones from Shades EQ just look so pretty. My hope is that this video provides some encouragement to work with the warm tones that result from color correction instead of being afraid of them or trying to fight them. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. I have another tutorial coming out soon, so make sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.